today I'm going to show you a few alternative methods to cope with shoe width and various foot shape issues that may help you. So most shoes come pre-laced, and it's usually the crossover lacing that we see here. But today I'm going to show you a few alternative methods to cope with shoe width and various foot shape issues that may help you. So the first lacing technique I'm going to demonstrate is one that a lot of people will talk about, and it's essentially to stop your heel slipping. Now, you don't have to do this, it's not a necessity, but if you do feel movement in the heel or you've got a very slim ankle, then by doing this technique it may help and reduce slippage. So lace the shoe as normal, but then create, first of all, additional loops into these extra little holes at the side of the shoe, and then you simply cross over the lace into these loops. Now, when you pull and draw it down, essentially what's happening is you can still fasten your lace in the same place here, so it doesn't dig into your instep, but the lace pulls in the heel of the shoe. So you pull up and down and then fasten your lace as fasten your lace as normal, like so. Essentially, again, made the extra loops here, and then you just cross over the laces like so. Pulling it up draws in that loop there. So that's if you've got heel slip. The next technique is if you've got a high instep, not a high arch. Remember, the arch is underneath the foot. The instep is the top of the foot and the angle at which the foot raises up. And if you've got a very high or broad instep, simply miss out a lace hole, up and then across, and continue as normal. And again, if you want a little bit more, more space at the top of the shoe, or the width of the shoe across the instep, come up 2 holes, and again fasten as normal. So this is if we've got a high instep or a very broad across the instep there, so you're creating more space. This technique is if you've got a very broad or wide forefoot, or perhaps a bunion on the big toe here. Miss out this bottom hole, start the lacing there, or even miss out 2 holes and start again. You don't need to use every eyelet. So again, broad foot, miss it out, give it a little bit of space. Another interesting thing to mention is that some people will wear through the upper of the shoe, and their big toe will poke through and rub away at the upper around about here. If that's the case, it's because your big toe joint is quite stiff, and as you push off, the toe is dorsiflexing, so it's curling up a little bit. So it's not a fault of the shoe, and it's not really to do with the fit of the shoe, but rather the stiffness of the big toe joint. If you do some stretching to your calf muscle and Achilles tendon, that may help that, but it's not really a shoe fit issue or the toenail. Yeah, keep the toenails trimmed and relatively short, and always have a finger's width at the end of your longest toe when you're stood up. But if you're coming through the upper, it's more to do with stiffness in the toe joint. Another tip here on the general fit of the shoe: when the laces are fastened, the eyelets should remain relatively parallel to one another. If that's the case, then the shoe is, generally speaking, going to be a good width. If the laces are stretching out like this, then generally the shoe's too narrow. And if you have to pull the laces very tight and we get any bunching around here and the eyelets are almost touching, then the shoe's too wide. So if we keep the eyelets parallel to each other and relatively straight, that's a good fit for the shoe. Lacing generally, I kind of tend to think that if you can just about get your little finger under the lace like that, that's how tight it should be. And another little tip, I always do a single bow and tuck the lace loops underneath like that, and I've never had a shoelace come undone. So you can stick to the single bow, tuck them under, your laces will, fingers crossed, never come undone. Hope those tips help and you get some great fitting shoes.